Where's the Natalia Trip
So hi everyone, it's me, Jared Medekheim. As you can see, I'm not painted up like Jokeypants. It's probably throwing some of you off. They're like, what the fuck is Jokey doing? Why isn't he all make-upped up and whatever? That's because this is a bonus series I'm doing. I don't really know how far I'll take it. I'll probably go through everything, as much as detail as I can give. Some of it's going to be a bit more difficult. Fair warning to everyone, this is a trigger warning to all. This series is going to delve into things about my life that are not comfortable. They're not comfortable things to hear. But with that, I wanted to do this series mainly because I went through a lot of shit growing up. We've talked about a little bit of it on What an Oddcast, things get brought up. Like, Mike has the joke about, having parents that loved him, and not being the case for me. So this series, I'm gonna delve into why we've made the comments we have, why I've said some of the things I have about my past, because personally, mental health in this country to me is kind of a fucking joke, and it always has been. We say we should take it seriously, but as we'll get into with this series, institutions that are in place don't necessarily have your best interests at heart when they're doing things. They're very much profit. Like, people are there to just get paid and make a paycheck, and they don't necessarily have to give a single shit about the people that they're supposed to take care of. But along the way, there will be people that I mention, which I don't know if any of them will ever even remember me. Maybe I'll have to change their names. We'll deal with that when we get there. I'm not going to say first names or whatever, last and first. We'll deal with it when we get there. But that's really the whole series here. Is I'm going to take you down the trip of what we actually mean when we talk about my childhood, things I went through. Because at the end of the day, I know a lot of people struggle with things. I know a lot of people have gone through some shit. And, you're not alone. Everybody's gone through shit, but I've been through a lot. The fact I'm as normal as I am is truly honestly, a miracle into the universe. I shouldn't be as normal as I am. By any means. I'm very riddled with a lot of traumas deep in the brain here that I just don't try to let bother me, because... So let me start this off by saying I try not to let any of this shit truly dictate how I am, who I am, what I've become. Because it shouldn't, was it shitty? Yeah, it was super fucking shitty, but there's nothing I can do to change it and to have it influence how I'd be now as an adult and as I've grown up. Deep somewhere inside me just felt like that wasn't living. Like, it shouldn't define who I am, because I'm better than everything I went through. So we'll start this off simple. Who am I? Where did I come from? All that shit. We'll start that in the first episode, and we'll go from there. So let's start. Obviously, I'm Jared Medekheim. You know me as Jokeypants on What an Oddcast. Jokeypants has bad taste. All that fun stuff. I grew up in Western New York. I was born in Cassadaga, New York, which I'd put an image on the screen of Cassadaga. It was literally bumfuck nowhere, like the towns you see in movies that are like, it was a small, quaint town, and then, oh no, monsters, or like some shit like Monster Squad or like Halloween, like just a small, quaint little town. That is where I grew up at. We were out in the middle of the country. We had Jamestown on one side of us, like 30-40 minutes one way. You had Fredonia, Dunkirk, 30-40 minutes the other way. And then about almost 2 hours away was Buffalo. So, Buffalo, New York, gotta love it. If you know anything about Buffalo, New York, a lot of this will make sense, because I was all over the western New York state. Not for fun reasons, not because... Again, we'll get into things. So yeah, as I said, Mike talks about that he had two loving parents, and me and Anthony didn't, because we're children of divorce. We've all had our issues, but I had a, how do I put that? So behind closed doors, I had a very normal child, or not even behind closed doors. To everyone else, I had a good childhood. Like I had consoles, I had a Game Boy Advance, I had fucking PS2, I had a PS1, a Sega Genesis. So and people would see the toys that I have, and my mom and my stepdad would act like, oh, we're the loving, happy family. We're just one big happy family. But that was all a face. That was how they wanted everyone in the community to view them, how they wanted all their friends to view them, people that they knew to view them. Even people in my own family. Like, they saw the things my parents wanted them to see. And honestly, if there's any of my family that grew up with me, they're probably going to try to argue things. But hey, y'all were witness to some things, and nobody ever did anything. And we'll get into it, that the family that did try to do things were all sent away from ever contacting me. So, again, this is going to be a rough series, guys. I told you, I had a very rough life. But I loved growing up where I did. Cassadaga, for me, was great growing up. Like, I ran around in the woods all the time. I raised raccoons. We've talked about that on the show a few times. Which, anytime that happened, for clarity, I'll bring it, we'll talk about it here. Raccoons that I had were always just my stepdad would go do a construction job, because he was a self-employed construction worker. He ran his own crew. But there were times he'd go to do a job somewhere, and then they'd find baby raccoons because mama had been shot or whatnot, or trapped, and they ended up finding babies because one of them was the one I had that was my favorite raccoon I'd ever raised. I named him Scooter, and he was my little buddy. I miss him every day, still to this day, like 20 years later. Because he was a good little buddy. He was one of the best pets I've ever had, honestly. He was a loyal little buddy. But that was a case of he was doing a job, and he was just in an attic because they had shot a raccoon like the week before, and then he found Scooter. So he ended up bringing it home, and we raised it, to feed him cat food, some milk. We took good care of him. I raised him for about 2 years, and then we re-released him into the wild. So it's not like I kept him forever. We just kept him until he was an adult, made sure that he, knew how to take care of himself, that he could take care of himself, that he wasn't hurt or anything like that. And then once he was mature enough to really take care of himself, we released him into our own woods. Because where I grew up, if I can find it, I will put a picture here. This house, the house that hopefully I've got on screen, hopefully I'm able to find it. It was on a house listing website. Don't worry, like I said, we'll get into a lot of things about my childhood, but that house was built by my stepdad, believe it or not. Like, he actually built the entire thing. We lived in a trailer for the first 5-6 years of my life. I'll put screenshots up because I found it before on Zillow, because the house is still listed, because no one in their right mind is going to buy that motherfucker. Because let me give the layout of my childhood home, right? We have that big ass house. We had a small garage to the right of the house. And then we had the big red garage, which is like a big sheet metal red garage to the left of the house. And then next to that garage, we built a barn that then had a pasture and next to a giant field. And after it was 10-15 minute walk through the field, you'd go to the woods, which I did all the time. We had a little campground that we'd made with a pavilion and whatnot. And I'd go down to the creek and we'd get crayfish and newts and salamanders and snakes. And I'd bring them home and terrorize my family because everyone in my house hated all of those things. My stepdad and my mom both hated snakes, and I would just bring home garter snakes, red belly razors, and shit, and they'd be like, get the fuck out! I'd be like, no, it's cool, look at it, he's cool. So yeah, like that part of it, my early childhood was pretty good. It was pretty good. I didn't have a whole lot of issue. Now, it's gonna sound terrible, but in the context of the entire story I will lay out, it will make sense of what happened, and even the way I've looked at it as I've gotten older is what happened. I had no problems with my mother or my stepfather. My mom and my dad, they broke up divorced when I was, I think I was maybe 1 or 2. I don't remember them getting divorced. Let me start with that. It was when I was still a baby. So I couldn't fucking tell you. Like, I remember my stepdad, Jason, for my entire life. So, but my dad was still there. This is not a story of like, my dad disappeared. Like, no, my dad was very much there. He tried to be there for me as much as he could. Which again, we'll be getting into, because there's reasons my dad was missing for most of my childhood, and was not by choice. Let's put it that way. It was not his choice. But yeah, so everything was pretty fine. You know, my early childhood was a lot of that, like going down to the creek, doing hunting with my stepdad. I didn't really have a whole lot of issue. We butted heads every now and again, but I was a kid, you know, whatever. But that changed when I was 7, because then my mom and my stepdad decided they wanted to have a kid, which shouldn't be a big deal. You know, like, you want to have a kid, understandable, you know, whatever. They were in their 20s, like, sure, whatever, hey, you know, do your thing. But that's really is where everything in my life changed. Because once my sister was born, who I've talked about on One and Oddcast, Jaden. When Jaden was born, everything about my life changed. It very much became, she became the important thing. And it's not that she was the important thing, like she's the new baby. It started to become more aware to me as time went on, because I loved my sister. I still love my sister. You know, she's my sister, and I'll always love her. She's going to live her life, I'm going to live mine. We don't really talk. I don't talk to really anyone in my family, other than a few select, like, other family members. But, like, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, and my brother, I don't talk to any of them, and they don't talk to me. It's a pretty mutual, we just don't acknowledge either of us exist. There's your clue of how this whole thing's going to play out, huh? Anyway. So yeah, when Jaden was born, everything kind of changed. For the first year, it wasn't too noticeable of change. You know, it was more just, there's a new baby in the house, whatever. You know, your parents are going to obviously have to spend more time with the baby, whatever. But things started to kind of take a turn, because Jason started to get more aggressive with me, is how I'd put that. You know, what used to be like, you know, getting talked to, maybe scolded, maybe yelled at, maybe grounded, turned into abuse. Again, trigger warning for all of you. But things started getting violent with me and him, to the point, like, even as a child, and I'm not making any of this shit up, this is all the shit that's happened to me. But no, it turned more physical very quickly. It very much, he was quick to want to put hands on you, you know, mouth off to him and backsass, because, you know, 7, 8 years old, I'm a fucking kid. You know, if there's something I don't agree with, I might say something, or I might do something. I'm a fucking kid. It's what kids do. They can get sassy. They can get all that. It's part of being a parent, is knowing how to handle that, and, like, you know, handle the kid without being an asshole. I don't give a shit. My stepdad, he only knows how to be an asshole. Like, to everyone else, he seems like such a nice guy. Behind closed doors, no. He only really knows how to be an asshole. Hands down. You know, if I throw any kind of, like, tantrum or anything, if I talk back, it turned into restraint. And by restraint, I mean I would be thrown to the ground, and my stepdad would be on top of me and pinning me down. and not letting me up until I calmed down. Which, here's the thing. When you put hands on someone in general for little things and keep escalating it, I didn't calm down. I got worse. The minute hands were put on me, even as a kid, I got worse. I would kick, I'd fucking punch, anything I could to get you the fuck off me. But that is what he would do. And that became a normal occurrence for my entire childhood. That if we ever got into an argument, he would push it to getting physical, where he'd like shove me, punch me. Boy, do I got stories of that. Also that he could try to restrain me. It was a power grab for him. I don't stand up on the show very often, but like I'm a bigger guy, I'm fat. I have been for a long time, which again, we'll get into with this because it actually ties into things I went through of why I put on weight. But regardless, it was always a power trip with him. So, I'd get restrained on the ground, get held down. And that escalated to getting sent places, which is what we'll get into with the next part. We'll start going down that. But that's the general gist, what the series is going to be, what we're going to be talking about. But yeah, me and my stepdad, we get into fights all the fucking time. And it was over the dumbest fucking shit. So one instance we'll bring up for this first episode here so you can get an idea of the things I'll be talking about. There was an instance I was in middle school. I don't remember exactly what grade. It might have been... Oh, God. I mean, it might have been like 9th grade. So maybe I had just started high school. I think it might have been 9th grade, actually. But regardless... We had Rottweilers, which I loved them to death. Maggie and Morgan, they were sisters. They were amazing dogs. They were the friendliest fucking dogs. Some of the friendliest dogs I've ever owned have been Maggie and Morgan. They were the most lovable pups. I fucking loved them to death. But there was a time I fed them because, get to that dinner time, you feed the dogs. I did that. My stepdad got home maybe an hour after I fed the dogs, and that spawned an argument of that I didn't feed them because he didn't physically watch me. He didn't see me feed them, so I didn't. And I argued with him, and so that turned into an argument of like, no, I did. I literally did. If you go look at their bowls, it has saliva in it because like they're slobber hounds. Like, they fucking ate their food. Like, what do you want from me? What are you talking about? And because I wasn't gonna refeed them, I was like, no, they've already eaten. Like now I already did that. They don't need to be fed again. They're fine. That turned into a whole argument that he escalated. And by I say he escalated, it goes exactly like this. So I say that, starts getting heated. We start yelling back and forth because that's immediately where it fucking goes with him. Because the minute you tell him that he might be wrong, he immediately turns into a guy who's going to scream at you because you're wrong, you're a child, you're fucking stupid. And you think I'm joking. I cannot even count on my hands or even begin to try to put into a number how many times I was called stupid, worthless, fat, dumb, hard R, a lot of the hard R's in there. And various other things. And that was pretty common vocabulary for him when it came to me, is that I was a big, dumb, fat fucking idiot who is never going to amount to anything, and I should just hang up everything now. Let that sink in for a minute. That's the kind of shit I dealt with my stepdad. But in this instance, now, at that time of my life, I had braces. Straight up, I had fucking braces. And the only reason I had them... Here's where it gets fun. The only reason I had them was because my sister was getting them and my mom wanted them. That's right, my mom wanted them. So what happened to me? It turned, you're going to get them too. Whether you fucking want to do it or not, I'm paying for it. You're getting them as well because it's cheaper for us all three to get them. So we're going to get it for a group discounted bullshit, whatever, on insurance. I hated that whole experience. Anyone who's had to deal with braces, I feel your pain. They fucking suck. They fucking suck ass. But because of that, things got physical. My stepdad punched me because now again, I was a teenager. I was like 15. So think about being 15. Think about your colorful vocabulary you start to acquire as you hit that teenage years. After like 10 minutes of just screaming at each other because my stepdad always refused to back down. He was never wrong, and you were always the one that was wrong. And it was always so fucking irritating with him. I dropped an F-bomb. I said, fuck you. And I would try, I was like, fuck you. And I went to go feed the dogs because he wasn't going to let it go. I was like, fine, I'll fucking feed him again. Fuck you. He heard that, came back through the front door, and punched me. Now, he didn't punch me in like, on the arm or like open hand smack. No, I'm talking, he made a fist like this, and he got me right here. Literally caught me under the nose. He went upward, got me under the nose. And my lips smashed into the braces that were on my teeth. If you've never had that happen, I want you to imagine, okay? Braces are metal. Lips are soft and fleshy. A fist is pretty hard. So what do you think happens to the soft, fleshy lips onto the hard metal braces? Yeah, my lips looked like fucking hamburger meat for almost a month, and I had to explain to people at school what happened, which you may be saying, well, why didn't Child Protective anything come in? They did multiple times. You know what happened every time? This is a fun fact about my childhood. My mother worked in the ER. My mother working in the ER, she knew everybody, from the cops to the people who worked the child protective cases. She knew everyone she needed to. So in the cases where there was a surprise visits, where like they're coming to check welfare, my mother would always get a heads up because to everyone else around her, she was the perfect mother. She was this great person where, oh, you don't mess with Shelly, because, yeah, Shelly has an attitude, but it's because Shelly always looks out for everyone, and she'll get everything you need done, blah, blah, blah. People would tell her, like, she'd find out through the grapevine from someone else, and then they would always put on a face. It would always be we're a happy, loving family, I don't know what you're talking about. No, everything's fine. Nothing that would give off red flags, nothing. They would act completely normal. But you fucking bet the minute those workers walked away, I got the ever-living shit kicked out of me and got grounded because I was the reason they were there. It was my fault. That's the kind of childhood I had. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg of anything that I've gone through. But this is more a generalization of, where I came from, the kind of things that are going to lead into what the rest of the series will be. So yeah, that's really a lot of the things that happen. There was and again, when I talk about my stepdad got physical with me, there were times where we straight got into fistfights, which is terrible because I had a baby sister. Like, my sister Jaden is 7 years younger than me. So at the time all this was happening, she was just a kid. And she had to witness her father and her half-brother just beating the living shit out of each other on almost a daily basis. Because her father was a fucking dickhead. And you may be saying, well, what about your sister and brother? Did they have any? No, I took the brunt of all that shit. My sister is the one reason why I don't really talk to my sister is she is a spoiled little brat. No, Jaden had everything handed to her. I'm not even kidding. Like, they would help her with fucking anything and everything. She was the star golden child. Meanwhile, I was worthless, pathetic, and would never amount to anything. So I didn't get any attention. Then the other issue I always ran into is I am on the spectrum. Now you may be saying, how do you know you are? I was tested more times than I can fucking count when I was growing up. The only problem is that growing up in the late 90s into the early 2000s, as you get older, they didn't know how to fucking test for shit. So I was anything and everything under the sun. They never could tell what the fuck anything was. At one point, it was ADD. And then that turned into ADHD. And then that turned into just straight up autism. And then that turned into, oh no, he has Asperger's. And then that turned into, oh no, maybe he has this. And then that turned into, oh no, maybe he has this. It was a continuous thing where like they would just give me tests on things like, well, he's smart. He's not, like he's smart. He gets things, just this, that, and the other. So I don't know. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's like, just pick a fucking lane. Just tell me what the fuck it is. Because then, as an adult now, it would be nice to know. But you know what? I don't trust going to doctors or therapists or anything. Because of the shit I had to go through growing up. Like, I have trouble doing any of that. So here's the thing. So, I'll throw this into the first episode too. I don't do therapy. And that's not because therapy is a joke or blah, blah. No, I very much like if therapy is something that can help you, seek it out. Talk to someone. Go at least try therapy to see how it works for you. Find someone that does. I have a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to all that because, as I said, things I'll get into in other episodes, just things that I grew up with, the things that I had to go through, people I had to deal with that didn't really give a shit, but were supposedly therapists in other places, and they didn't actually give a shit. So, as I've gotten older, I don't trust any of it, because a distrust was placed in me very early on in my life, and fucked me over growing up, and now therapy doesn't work on me, because I've heard it all, I've seen it all at this point, and it was always used against me. So now I dealt with shit on my own because I couldn't trust fucking anyone. And anytime I've tried therapy, I never get very far because I can't. It's just one of those things. Like I just pass, hard pass for me. But I have plenty of friends that have gone or even in therapy for whatever, and it helps them. And I'm very happy it helps them because it is a thing that is meant to be helpful. It is meant to be helpful. It is meant to help you. It is not meant to manipulate and make things perceived. It's not meant to do what happened to me growing up, which I'm glad to see there have been changes and people are able to actually get help. It's not like it was when I was growing up. Thank fucking God. But also, in that vein, New York State mental health is a fucking joke. It has always been a fucking joke, and I know it's a fucking joke because I grew up with it, and it is the biggest goddamn joke of a mental health system because it doesn't work. It's filled with people who are only there for a paycheck, and they don't give a shit what's going on with you. As long as you're filling their money in their pockets, they don't give a shit. So yeah, I had that. My mother, on the other hand, so we talked about my stepdad. My mother, on the other hand, she was a whole nother fucking bag of problems, okay? Like, there's a reason I had the temper that I had, and I still struggle with here and there. I get it from my mother, all right? My father, me and my dad are almost an exact clone. Like, I look almost exactly like my dad, and I have almost every interest that my dad has, and that's not even because he did that. Like, that's all things I just gravitated towards. Horror, metal, writer, being more creative, like liking to draw, color, collecting collectible things. Like, all that shit is exactly how my dad is. And, like, I've talked about it before. My dad has written a lot of horror short stories, and he's gotten awards for such. And I'm very proud of him. Very proud of you, Dad. And, like, honest to God, like, I would not trade my dad for anyone else. I fucking love my dad. But my mother, on the other hand, my mother is... How do I put this? How do I put this in a way that it's not going to sound good no matter how I try to put this? But I have heard so many stories from the people who grew up with my mom in high school and before and even people in my own family with just like how she was as a kid. My mother has always been, like has always had, and still to this day has, a queen bitch mentality. Even like talking to grandparents, uncles, everybody, my mom has always been that way. She's always been the kind of person that's, I want things done my way, and if it's not done my way, I'm gonna make your life a living fucking hell until you give it to me my way. She was like that as a child, did not change as an adult. She's the exact fucking same as an adult. And I know after living with the woman for 17 years of my life, and you may be saying, only 17? Yeah, trust me, we'll get into it. But with that, my mother had this fun tendency growing up where when she got mad, she didn't just scream at you. Because boy, she said she was like a banshee in the middle of the night when she screamed. It like high pitched, makes your ears bleed. Like she will scream her head off at you over whatever it is you pissed her off about. But she also has this fun tendency of picking up the nearest object, no matter what it is, and whipping it as hard as she can at your person, typically trying to hit you in the head. I have gotten hit by, like the heavy glass ashtray, if you know what I'm talking about. It looks like it's made of diamonds, all glass. I've had one of those hit me in the forehead as a teenager. She whipped it fucking right at me, and I didn't quite get out of the way in time, and it fucking dink. Hurt like a son of a bitch. She had picked up one of the old Dyson vacuums from the 90s. If you know what I'm talking about, like comes with the bag. They were heavy as shit. She picked that shit up over her head and chucked it at me and my stepdad when we made her mad. She also threw a 2-liter bottle that was empty when we lived in our trailer that proceeded to ricochet off a couple cabinets and then literally bury itself halfway through the front door because she puts that much fucking force behind it. If any of us had been standing in front of it, we would have been knocked the fuck out by a goddamn 2-liter that was empty. Because that is the mother that I had. And you may be saying, well, at least they're blunt. Oh no, she threw kitchen knives. There were quite a few times she threw fucking kitchen knives at me that, like, thank fucking God I got out of the way, but they were stuck in the pillar in our house. Like, they would get stuck in the fucking pillar because she whips them at you. You think I'm fucking kidding? Like, now I'm talking like go get the big kitchen, like, chef's knife. She threw that shit. Like, she would be cutting something for dinner and you'd say something that would just rub her wrong. That shit was coming at you, and you either got out of the way or we were going to the hospital. Like, it was always fucking like that with her. But to everyone around her, all of her friends and our family friends, she was Shelly. She was a loving, sweet person. Like, yeah, she had a bitch attitude, but she only used it to help us out when we needed it. And it's like, no, she's just a fucking bitch. Like, I'm not sorry. My mother is a giant cunt and has always been and always will be. Like, she is fucking the spawn of goddamn Satan. Like, that woman has the biggest attitude I've ever fucking seen. It's a wonder where I got it from, huh? Like, gee, Ma, maybe calm down real, maybe. Just fucking use some retrospect here. Jesus fucking Christ. But no, I'm the problem. So that's what I grew up with. I grew up with two people who had zero patience. And for me, they always wanted me to be somebody I wasn't. Which, honestly, like, when we started What an Oddcast, it was me trying to really just be myself. Like, honestly, like, we talked about all the nerdy shit we did, and me and Anthony, it was just us being buddies. Because we've been buddies since 8th grade, and we started all this. Growing up in my house, I wasn't allowed to be nerdy. And you can think, well, what do you mean you weren't allowed? I mean, like, I straight up just wasn't allowed. Like, I wrote short stories, like fan fiction things when I was in like 13, 14. I did some Ghost Rider short stories and things because that's what I liked. I like comic books. As you can see behind me, I'm still setting up a set. I got a bunch of new things. Bear with me there. But that's the shit I liked. Like, I like comic books. I liked horror. I liked metal. I liked rock. I was different than my parents, who my stepdad was a construction worker who ran a farm, because it's why we built the barn. We got horses. We ended up getting cows and whatnot. Like, he was a country boy through and through. And I wasn't. Like, I just wasn't. I didn't enjoy farm life at all. It wasn't for me. I fucking really kind of hated it. Like, I love animals, don't get me wrong, but farm life was not for me. I worked on a couple farms when I was a kid helping out, and it was neat, but like, it wasn't something I wanted to do with my life. And my stepdad took that as such an offense that I was more artistic, that I wanted to write, I wanted to draw, I wanted to color, I wanted to like play video games, I wanted to watch cartoons, or I wanted to watch like The Walking Dead, or I wanted to watch the Marvel movies, whatnot. That was all to him considered. I don't want to use the terminology he did because it is very offensive, but I will say it's an F word and ends with T, but not fuck. It's the other F word. Think you can piece together how he would terminalize all that. That's how he responded to me being like that, is that I was being itty, and I was like, I don't think you can say that. And he didn't give a shit, because that's what I was. I was very frustrating, because like, it's not how to treat a kid. You definitely don't say that to your fucking kid, because you fucked them up. Like, it made me afraid to be who I actually was in my own house. Like, I never left my room, and when I did leave my room, I got abused. Like, I got called that, and again, like, fat. Got called stupid, worthless. Cause like, so here's the thing, going through school, I've always been bad at math. It's never been a strong suit for me. And my stepdad, that meant I was hard R-worded, because I was bad at math and he did construction. So I should be better at it because he does it. And it's like, that's not how that works. Like, just saying. But I was like, mostly A's when it came to history, English, really everything other than math I did pretty okay in. It's just math was the only one that I was like D student. Through and through a D student. I hated math. I was bad at it. I don't give a shit about math. Like, I know the math that gets me through life at this point, where it's like money and time. Because it's the only two that I've really ever fucking had to know growing up. But, yeah, so I was always told to, do not look smart, so you gotta get good with your hands, because you're big and dumb, so you gotta make that work for you. And it would piss me off every time, because, like, I'm not dumb at all, actually. I actually have more information in my brain than I think even you can comprehend there, Jason. Is it information that you think is relevant or you think is important? No, but guess what? It is to me, and that's all that should matter. But you're not really a parent because you don't give a shit what I actually enjoy or who I actually am. You just want me to be who you want me to be, and you're going to beat me into submission until I do. And that is what he did for 17 years. Now, you may be saying, like, why not? What do you mean 17? People live, I could understand 18 years old. Like, no, I was kicked out of my house at 17. Like, straight up. So another fun thing that would happen to me after my stepdad built the house is if I made him mad, he would go down to the power breaker, since he built the house, and he would switch the power off to my room, and he would remove the breaker. And he would keep it that way until I agreed to whatever the fuck it was that he wanted. And that could have been that I had to do my sister's chores. It could be that I had to do whatever the fuck at the barn, even if I didn't want to. Which, to a degree, sure, parents, do chores, whatever. But for me, it was always things that I shouldn't be doing at the age at all. Like trying to help build the barn when the floor is not really steady. Me and my friends that I live with here, Sergeant Redacted, and I've talked with Anthony and whatnot, but especially Sergeant Redacted. My parents loved him because he was a handyman himself, so they loved him to death. He just never showed his nerdy side to them. Unfortunately, I lived with him, so I couldn't help it. But we've talked about recently about the time where we were in the barn, and the top floor wasn't finished yet. It was holding up hay, but he had just put like plywood down, and there was a big ass hole in the center so you could throw the hay bales down. And Sergeant Redacted and me were talking about that, and he's like, yeah, I remember the time he tried to get me to walk across there, and then I was like, so the floor is finished? He's like, nah, it's just some plywood. And I went, nah, pass. And then he forced you over. And by forced over, like literally grabbed me by the collar of my shirt and threw me across the walking plank ladder thing that he had down to get onto the flimsy floor to throw a hay bale down because he hadn't finished it yet to be putting hay up there. So carrying the hay bale plus my body weight, at any point the plywood that he had down could have snapped and I would have fallen right through and broken my fucking legs. But my stepdad didn't give a shit. It was, you're going to do this because I'm not gonna, but you're gonna. So me and Sergeant Redacted have talked about those things. You know, he was at my house a lot. He was very much witness to things quite often. In fact, he was one of the people that I would go to when I was kicked out. I was kicked out of my house, I'd say like every week, maybe a couple times a week. My parents would just get into a fight with me and then literally drag me and throw me outside. And I'd have to walk, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 miles, depending on whose house I was going to for that night. And I'd stay on their couch, because all my friends' families, they all loved me. Like, they all had no problem with me. Everybody liked me because everybody's like, yeah, you're very polite. You don't, like, eat all our food. You don't make a mess. You always say please, thank you, whatever. Which, in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not a piece of shit. Like, it's not my house. I'm not a piece of shit. Like, of course. So, like, I would crash couches on my friends all the time throughout high school and middle school. Like, that was me. Like, walking 4 or 5 miles to get to a friend's house from my literally middle of fucking nowhere house because we lived about 5 miles outside of town, so I'd have to walk or bike if I had my bike, unless my stepdad locked my bike up, which happened a few times, and I was forced to just walk wherever I was sleeping for the night. They didn't give a shit. But yeah, when I was 17, we got into a really bad fight. It got really physical, and the cops were called for the millionth time to my house, and my stepdad tried to say that I beat the shit out of him. And the cops kind of laughed at him because he had no bruises or anything to show that he was beaten, but I had red marks on my chest and face. So, hey, bud. So that was the thing. And at that point, my stepdad filed a restraining order on me at 17, and I was forced to vacate the premises, which I was fine with because the whole thing that had started the fight was just another dumb shit thing of my stepdad trying to make me do my sister's chores, plus extra shit, and I didn't get an allowance, so in case you're wondering, like, well, did you at least get, like, an allowance? Like, no, I didn't get shit. My sister did, though. My sister would still get her allowance, even if I had to do the shit for her. My allowance was that I would get 5 minutes on Xbox with every task I did. Not even kidding. They're like, you get 5 minutes, here you go, which I know some families do that, and I'm like, makes sense in some cases. In my case, it was literally just because that was the one thing that I could enjoy in the house and not have someone screaming at me downstairs. So heaven forbid I had that freedom. I had to earn that freedom, unlike my sister who could sit on her PlayStation all day and not get bothered. They didn't bother her for shit of anything she wanted to do. Only me. Hooray! But anyway, I was already packing up a bag. I literally had called my dad, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to live here. Either you come pick me up, or I'm literally packing a bag, and I'm hitting the road, and I'm not coming back. Like, I'm done with this shit. I've dealt with this my whole life. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm a senior. I'm done with this shit. So my dad drove from fucking Buffalo, New York, all the way down to Cassadaga, which is, again, almost 2 hours. I think it's about an hour, a little over, maybe hour and a half. I'm a little fuzzy. It's been a long time since I've made that drive. But my dad did in the middle of the fucking night. And by the time my dad got there were cops. So I had to talk with the officers. My stepdad filed a restraining order. I lived with my dad in Buffalo and missed like a whole month's worth of school because I couldn't get to school. And at that point, I just wanted a fucking break. And my dad was very much like, after all the shit you went through, take some time to just get your shit together. And like, he literally drove to my school to get work from my classes for the month and was like, he explained the situation and he's like, he just needs some time to get his head straight. He's been through a lot. If you could just bear with me, just give me the work, I'll have him do it and we'll return it back, blah, blah, blah. So I did that for like a month. And then I had an offer from a buddy of mine and I stayed in an extra room at a buddy's house for my entire senior year of high school just to finish high school because otherwise it was literally my parents were going to make me homeless and I couldn't have finished. But luckily, I'm not a bad person, so people get along with me really easily. And my buddy's parents were just really nice people, very caring, the Arnolds, and they were like, hey, instead of missing out and like failing your senior year and like not being able to get your diploma, like just come stay with us. We have an extra room that'll at least get you through the last half of the school year so you can at least get that diploma because you're going to need that. And I was very appreciative of that. It saved my ass so that I could actually finish high school. So yeah, that's the gist of things. There's way more we'll get into. And a lot of this is rambling because I haven't really been able to pinpoint exactly how I wanted to tackle things, what exactly I wanted to do. But this is just a generalization. You can kind of get the idea of, what my life was like. And the next episode I do, we'll get into things, the really like detailed bad things that happened to me growing up. But that's a generalization up until I left my parents. I was just very abused, whether it was physically, emotionally, verbally, didn't matter. Just all of it, all of the above, What do you do? It's one of those things where it's like, I don't feel bad. Like anybody, like I've talked to people about things because they don't believe like, oh, what do you mean? And then I explain some things and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, no, don't have that reaction. Don't feel bad for me. Don't be like, oh, you poor thing. Like, no, I'm fine. Like I'm fucking 31 years old. I don't have any feelings about it. It happened. It fucking sucks. But I've done most of my adult life now to look out for people and help people because I very much know what it is to be alone, what it is to not have anyone in your fucking corner, and to just feel like the world wants you dead. I know what that feels like because I lived that for a very long time. I felt like that until 8th grade when I met Sergeant Redacted, who moved me here to Guam, and my buddy Anthony, who I do What an Oddcast with. Like that, those were the two people that I met in 8th grade that literally saved my life because they became the people that have always had my back. So they are my best friends for that reason. Truly, if I didn't have either of them, I wouldn't be here. Like that's hands down the truth. I know that's a very touchy thing to say, and people, again, I'm not trying to trigger anyone or offend anyone. Just it's very much true. If I hadn't have met those two, I wouldn't be here today with all the shit I had to deal with and I had to cope with. Life would have been very different if I hadn't have met them. I don't even really know how to end it or whatever. let me know in the comments how you feel about it, or even message me. You can message at oddcastn, oddcastmedia@gmail.com, or you can even find me on Facebook, Jared Menakheim, or you can just go to the Oddcast Network on Facebook and you can message me through there. Let me know your thoughts. If you've struggled with things like this, or whatever, or whatever. As long as it's not like something super terrible about like I'm a piece of shit. Everything I'm talking about is the truth. It sucks because if you ask anyone else in my family, whether it's my mom, my stepdad, some of the grandparents who were close to my mom, none of them will corroborate any of it. They'll be like, no, he's making it up. He was a terrible kid. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it other than they have a loyalty to my mother because my mother is very vindictive. As I talked about with that attitude thing, there's other things I'll talk about later that will correspond with things we're going with. But she very much weaponized having children against everyone. And there are some people in the family that are so desperate to, you gotta keep family, that they will never do anything to piss her off. And it's frustrating because I had to deal with the brunt of all the shit that I did. And there are some people who could have done something and didn't do shit. And there's some anger I have there with them on that. But I've got, I don't hold it against people because it is what it is. But that's why I'm there for people. I know what it's like. It's also why I try to just be the funny guy, and I try to make jokes, and I try to whatnot for people, because for me, if I can make you laugh, if I can make you feel better, and you're having a shitty day, then I feel good. Because I know what it's like to just feel that way and have absolutely no one try to do anything to make you feel better. I lived it. It's not a way to live. So I try to be nice to literally everyone I meet. Everyone I meet gets nice until you give me a reason that I can't be nice to you or I can't talk to you. I will be nice and courteous with you just because I don't want to spread more hate and anger in the world. There's enough of that shit. People deal with it every fucking day. Why am I going to spread more of that? But anyway, before I get lost here, We'll see where the series goes. I gotta plan out the next one. But until then, stay odd, stay happy, and always talk to someone if you're struggling with anything, because it's better to talk to someone than try to hold it in. I know from experience. Ciao.